Today we are going to continue our Incumbents series, and we will talk about FSS and how they affect CBRS operations. So let's start by reviewing the types of incumbents. Here we see all the tier 1 users. They are the highest, they get the highest level of protection from interference in the CBRS band. And FSS, or fixed satellite stations, which we are going to cover today, are around 35 registered sites around the country. They are both in the continental US and the islands. And they could be, there are few more than 35 FSS in the US, but right now only 35 are registered. More could register in the future, so that list could be changing. Now, what do the fixed satellite stations operate? They operate typically in the upper 50 megahertz of the band, but there are some who could go as low as the 3600. Okay, FSS and GWBLs. Why are we talking about GWBLs? We said that we were going to talk about FSS. Well, the fact is that FSS restrictions are highly dependent on Part 90 licenses. So the good thing is that GWBLs have an expiration date, so as this license expires, the FSS restrictions will soften. Now, so, if you got a chance to read through all the text in the previous slide, that's great, but let's go to the bottom line of the impact of GWBLs and FSS, and overall, what do you need to know about FSS? If you had to learn the impact of FSS in 60 seconds, that would be it. Between today and the expiration of the last Part 90 license, if you deploy a CBSD within 150 kilometers of an FSS site where there is a device of a non-expired Part 90 license, you will not be able to transmit in the protected frequency range, which is typically 3650 to the 3700, although in some cases could go as low as 3600. Now, after the expiration of the last device, of the last Part 90 license, of that last device that is in that range, life gets so much easier, because what would happen is that the restriction will go down to only interference protection. What does this mean? This means that you will be able to transmit in that area as long as the aggregated interference of all of the devices in that area is below a specific threshold. So obviously that's going to depend on congestion, but at the end of the day, you will have some opportunity to transmit, maybe at a reduced power level, but you won't be completely blocked in that top 50 megahertz of the band. Now, if you, let's go into some of the details. We have two types of FSSs. The first category is the in-band FSS. So those are the most restrictive ones. Those are the ones where I mentioned, basically no transmission is allowed within 150 kilometers what the, devices of an expired Part 90 licenses are in the area. And then there are the adjacent band FSS, and those are the ones who actually use only the 3700 and above frequencies, but need to be still protected from interference. And let's see in these maps, what these guys are. Here on the left, we see the sites that have registered. This is only continental US. We will give you a resource where you can see all of the FSSs in the islands as well. Basically, you see there's a bunch around the West Coast and the East Coast and around Miami. On the right-hand side, you see all of them, even those who haven't registered. So this means that, this could get potentially worse before it gets better. Right, and these are the adjacent band FSSs that I mentioned. Those have smaller areas that they covered. Those are the 40-kilometer radius area, and typically they, you are allowed to transmit even at a lower power. Okay, so let's get to the, the bottom of how FSS affects CBSD operations. In the exclusion zones, which is what's happening for in-band FSSs while there are unexpired Part 90 devices, CBSDs aren't allowed to transmit. This means the spectrum inquiry is going to return that no channel is available in the area. And apologies, there is a typo here. I meant 3600, 3700, right? So this is 3700. Apologies for that. In the protection zones, which are the adjacent band FSS or an FSS where there is no Part 90 device, we are talking about ability to transmit at a reduced power level. Right, so you will see a power level returned by the SAS that might be lower than your maximum power level, the maximum power level of your CBSD, but you can still transmit. Now, if there are many CBSDs in that area, the aggregate interference is going to be too great for the FSS, so the SAS may have to suspend some of those CBSDs to get below the threshold, or could redistribute power. These are things that still, considering. Now let's end on a happy note, which is, how beautiful life would be in the future. At the top, we see our heat map today. This includes all FSS, GWPZs, all the incumbents in the continental US today. At the bottom, we see the map of incumbents in 2024. By then, most of the GWPZs would have expired. And so on top of those GWPZ restrictions going away, the FSS restrictions also get much, much lower, right? So we see here a beautiful green map of the US where CBSDs are going to be happy and get lots of spectrum. And just to finish, a couple of recommended resources for those who want to find more about FSS. At the top is a document from the WIM forum that was published only a couple of months ago, March 2020, where you have a very thorough description of all the different incumbents, the maps of FSS locations that I showed previously are coming from this document. You also have the list of GWPZs and FSS and expiration dates. So if you are interested in finding out more about what's happening in your area, this is a great resource to look at. And the second resource is the CBRS heat maps that are available in the SAS portal. So you can look at those anytime. Just go into your SAS portal, click on your Google account icon at the top right of your screen and click on CBRS heat maps, and you will see the same map that I showed in the previous slide. Let me show you that again. So this map at the top today, that's what you will see, and you can zoom in as much as you want. Okay, so let's go on to our questions now. Give me just a quick second so I can go